Coast-to-coast misery. An historic winter storm knocks out Texas's power grid. Now it's headed east. How two of the early pandemic political heroes are now facing the biggest threats of their careers. And Oprah snags a royal exclusive. Tuesday Need to Know. Let's go. Good morning, everybody. This is Cheddar's Need to Know podcast for Tuesday, February 16th. I am Carlo Versano. I am back, and I am here with Baker Machado, everybody. Baker, good to see you. Jill is off this week. She will be back. The gang will be back together on Monday. But until then, like I said, I've got my friend Baker with me today. So, Baker, I've been off for a few days. First of all, thank you for filling in for me on Friday. So what did I miss?
Oh, Carlo, you missed so much. The ratings had never been higher since you had been gone. As a result of it, I'm sure it's going to carry over to this week as well. No, just always pleasure to see you, man. We really missed you last week. We missed your levity last week. There's always...
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we always have like those weeks, and COVID has really kind of made that where you never know if it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday anymore. I mean, today, people had to tell me it's a Tuesday. It feels like a Monday.
Yeah.
So the fact that we lost you for an entire week, I think we lost a little sense of levity here in the office, so it's always good to see you back here.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. So, yeah, what do we got today?
All right, a lot of stuff to get to, Carlo, this morning. First off, let's start off with the weather. A historic coast-to-coast weather storm wreaking havoc across most of the country. Texas, Carlo, is getting the brunt of it so far. Temperatures, if you can believe it, in Dallas, Texas, as low as 7 degrees. Snow on the beaches of Galveston, Texas as well, and rolling blackouts from ice that have left almost 4 million people across the state still without power as of this morning. Now, the crazy part in all this, gas prices have now jumped nationwide and will likely keep rising as the big Texas refineries have had to go offline due to the failure of the electrical grid. The system tracking over the Midwest and the Northeast through today, it's going to bring widespread snow and damaging ice all with it. And those frigid temps in Texas are expected to stay at least through tomorrow. I don't know if you saw some of the visuals of all of this, Carlo, but you know, in Texas, especially in Texas, they don't have a ton of snow plows like we are accustomed to here in New York and back where I'm from in Colorado. So a friend of ours, a former coworker of ours, was posting on Instagram, because he lives in Austin, Texas, so much snow all over the highway, so much snow in front of his front yard, and none of it has been plowed because they have no plow trucks to help people there.
Well, I remember even in Virginia, which gets more snow than Texas, but when I was in school in Virginia, it's an inch of snow. It would shut down Richmond for a week. They just did not know how to handle it because obviously they don't get it. Yeah, I mean, 6-7 inches of snow in Austin, that's incredible. I don't think I've ever seen that in my life. But yeah, you got to, first of all, the first thing that came to my mind is what is this going to mean with regard to sort of vaccine distribution in Texas and down there. I bet there's probably some doses going bad as we speak, just given how widespread these power outages are. So look, I know we have some Texas listeners. I hope they're all doing okay, hanging in there. It'll get better later in this week. I just looked at the forecast for Dallas and Houston. It's going to start to warm up a little bit. By the way, a fun fact, which I learned last night researching, the reason why Texas has these rolling blackouts, it's because they have their own electrical grid, which I didn't realize. It's sort of cut off from the rest of the country. The reason for that goes all the way back to the FDR administration, when Texas, they realized that if they had their own grid that didn't cross state lines, they wouldn't be subject to federal interstate electricity sales. So that's sort of the reason why you have the grid now failing. And this is a big deal, like you said, because of the refineries now going offline. It's not just gas prices at the pump. Natural gas is through the roof, so it's going to be harder to heat your home.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, and on top of that, I just want to add like a tinge of politics to all of this. We know clean energy is a really hot topic, especially now that Joe Biden is in the administration. The wind turbines in Texas froze, so a lot of that energy that they were hoping to be getting from clean energy sources weren't available to them, which is part of the reason why you're seeing a lot of these fossil fuels and demand for that going through the roof, Carlo. This has led the super conservative Wall Street Journal editorial board to say, why should we be going to all of these clean energy sources when clearly in a place like Texas that would need it, it's not even available to them?
Oh, the Wall Street Journal editorial page. They're going to get me worked up. I just got back from vacation. I'm already going to get worked
right?
up. No, it's a good point, though. And look, this winter has been brutal. I was thinking about this yesterday as I was coming back. Like, first of all, New York City right now, and I think we're finally going to start to get some rain today. And
Will we?
This is nothing compared to what Texas is dealing with. But New York City looks so disgusting right now. It's like you've got this snow that's been on the ground now for like a month. It is pitch. It is black. It's not even look like snow.
Oh, it is.
They completely stopped picking up the garbage, at least in Brooklyn.
Oh, 100%. It's so funny when I take my dog out to go to the bathroom because there's so much snow, so much just soot from just what's in the air and all this other stuff, on top of all of the dogs who've peed and gone to the bathroom in the snow. So it just looks like this cluster F of so much grossness of snow all over the place. Carlo, it's been brutal. This winter, this is my 5th winter now in New York City, and I swear this has been the worst of all of the winters. And I think it's because of the pandemic, because it's like we're trapped inside. We're all like dying to get out of the house, but we can't because it's just too cold to get out. So I think that's led to most of us being exasperated from this pandemic.
Oh, absolutely. But you know what? Look, I'm continuing to be an optimist here. Spring is getting closer. Hang in there, people. Yes. We are almost through this.
Well, let's continue on with that topic of the pandemic, Carlo. The numbers continuing to improve here in the U.S. by just about every metric when it comes to vaccinations. Cases, hospitalizations, deaths, they're all still showing significant decreases, and the vaccination rate slowly inching up. The 7-day average now at 1.64 million shots administered. That number could, however, take a hit due to the impacts of the storm, as you said just a few moments ago, Carlo. Meanwhile, some other promising news coming from Israel. New data there shows a staggering 94% drop in systematic cases among the 600,000 or so people who have received both the vaccinations. And this is, of course, regardless of their age range. This is the biggest study yet in that country, which has been pretty much among the best in the world, if not the best in the world, when it comes to getting every person in that country vaccinated. We should note, of course, they don't have as many people that live as United States or China, but still, it is really impressive what I guess a universal healthcare system can do for people.
Well, yeah, I mean, the 94% drop in symptomatic cases, that's a really big deal. I think that I just want to continue to I know I say it all the time, but like the vaccine news is fantastic. These vaccines work like a charm. When you have the opportunity to get one, get one. My parents are now fully vaccinated, so that's really exciting, and my family. And you said Israel's among the best. We're actually getting to be among the best too when it comes to vaccines, the distribution of vaccines, even despite all the hiccups. And obviously it has not gone particularly well, but it's getting better. It's slow, but it is surely getting better. I continue to feel better every day about this. The numbers, by the way, they're not just good here. If you look at South Africa, where they've got this really worrying variant that's the vast majority of cases, they're crushing the curve. And it's not just vaccinations doing that. So I think that shows you that the usual stuff that we already know, mask wearing, social distancing, avoiding these big, unventilated spaces with the people you don't know, that is working. If it works, if you work it, right? It's happening. So I made a bet with my buddy Zach this weekend. I bet him $100 that one of me or him, would have at least one of the vaccine doses by Memorial Day.
Oh, that's a good bet.
Without cutting in line or any funny business, just based on our
Fauci says April's open season, so who knows? You both may be getting it that month.
So would you take? I was going to ask you, would you take that bet?
Oh, 100%.
Do you think you'll have a shot by Memorial Day?
So absolutely. I even think, Carlo, there's a great chance you might even get it before. So my husband, by the way, is getting his vaccine in the next 2 weeks here in New York City. I mean, the mood in our house completely changed the moment he was able to get his date for his vaccine. I'm probably most likely in the next group after him, so I probably won't get mine until the end of March or April. But Carlo, I think there is a really great legitimate chance that even before Memorial Day, I would say a few weeks before that, I would say there would be a good percentage of people in this country will be vaccinated by that point. I mean, you have to think Joe Biden said his goal was just to get people to 1.5 million vaccines a day. We're over at 1.6, and all expectations minus the weather down south, we might get that number even just a smidge higher than that.
Oh, I think we could get to 2 million a day by March. And
totally.
Maybe we could get to 3 million a day once we get this Johnson & Johnson shot into the into the supply chain. So I'm not an optimist by heart, but I think that we're on the verge of a sort of renaissance this spring and summer. I don't think we're not going back to normal right away. There's a lot of pain to come still, but I really do think that we are in the sort of the last innings of the worst of this.
Oh, totally. But my expectation, and I could be totally wrong, the world turns into Florida once basically everybody's vaccinated. I mean, have you seen what is happening in Florida? People are going crazy down there, A, because a ton of people are being vaccinated, and B, it's Florida. But I mean, my in-laws are living in Florida. They both have received the vaccine, and they tell us all the time, like, it is open season down there. People are out at the bars. People are out partying. Yeah. We saw Tom Brady, basically practically doing body shots off the Lombardi Trophy. So, I mean, I have this feeling that we've been kept in for so long, Carlo, and all of us are just dying to get out, that regardless of kind of like how you view the pandemic and how serious you take it, I think we're all going to have this moment where we burst out this summer, hopefully, potentially this summer, and we're just like, I'm doing it. I'm going to the bars. I'm getting sloppy. I'm doing everything now because I haven't been able to do it in so long.
Let's just hope that Florida doesn't ruin that for us by
that could happen.
Going too hard, too early. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Let's move to politics and the virus here for a moment, Carlo. Two Democratic governors who got off early, some early praise at the beginning of the pandemic for their handling of it, are now marred in scandal and controversy for that same exact stewardship. Let's talk about what's happening here in New York. Our governor, Andrew Cuomo, has now admitted that his office should have been more transparent in how they counted coronavirus deaths in nursing homes, which were far more than the state had originally acknowledged. Those deaths have ended up being counted at hospitals, not at nursing homes. Cuomo stopped short of a full apology over the weekend and even denied allegations that he covered up those deaths to keep the Trump administration from investigating him. But this is a growing scandal here in New York, and it threatens his, pretty big image that he had in this state, Carlo, at the beginning of the pandemic, where, my God, he was nominated for awards because people were loving his presentation so much. Meanwhile, on the opposite coast in California, Gavin Newsom, opponents of him say that they now have 1.5 million signatures that are needed now to trigger a recall election based on his missteps. Newsom has taken heat for everything from breaking COVID protocols to go out to dinner that he did when he was out at the French Laundry, which, by the way, a very nice restaurant if you can ever go there someday, all to the state's worsening homeless crisis and exodus of white-collar workers. Carlo, I think Gavin Newsom's approval rating has now plummeted into the 40s right now based on what's been happening in California.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting because from what I looked at, it looks like Cuomo's approval is still sort of hanging in there despite this latest scandal. That's interesting, though. Those signatures, by the way, for the Newsom recall, they're in the process of being verified. A recall election in that state could happen as early as this summer. The last time California recalled a governor, I believe, was Gray Davis in 2003, right?
That was when Arnold Schwarzenegger came to the picture.
Oh, was Schwarzenegger the one who came right after Gray Davis?
You're right. The recall happened in 2003, knocking Democrat Gray Davis out. And this is the reason why a lot of Democrats are skeptical of this recall, because in 2003, this was back when California basically had all these celebrities. I think a bunch of different celebrities. There was a porn star, I think. Gary Coleman, thank you to Michelle, to our producer Michelle. Gary Coleman, there was a porn star, Mary Carey, I think, that ran. Schwarzenegger ended up running, but he ran as a very moderate Republican, and he ended up having pretty good approval numbers after all that. The difference is now Republicans in California don't have an Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Republican Party in California has become much more conservative, much more Trumpy, and you can't really win on those sort of politics in a state that's Joe Biden won 60+% of the vote. So Democrats a little bit more optimistic about this recall than they were in 2003. But you got to think for somebody like Gavin Newsom, who had huge presidential ambitions, he has been a rising star in California political politics for a while. This is if he ends up getting recalled, Carlo, this is a really bad blemish really bad on his career.
Okay, speaking of politics, Baker, just because I've been out for a few days, can we talk impeachment just for a hot second?
Yeah.
So I know you guys covered it. I was sort of watching, but not paying too much attention. But I heard it was really heartening. I heard that the GOP grew a spine and all of them voted to convict
Trump.
Yes,
all of them.
Oh wait, no, that didn't happen. Am I wrong about that? He was actually acquitted despite all the evidence.
You know what's so funny? And my husband, I felt really bad for my husband this weekend because all I wanted to do was watch the impeachment, and my husband was like so exasperated. One, because it was so cold he couldn't go anywhere else, so he was like forced to watch all of this with me. But yeah, 7 Republicans, which I think was higher than we expected. We thought maybe 5, potentially 6. Plus or minus 1 or 2 would have been a big deal here, but clearly there were not enough votes to formally convict former President Trump here. It's interesting because the individuals up that did end up siding with the 5 that voted earlier. You have Bill Cassidy, who just won re-election in 2000, so he's not up for voters for another 6 years. And the other one, Richard Burr in North Carolina. He's announced he's retiring, so he's not even going to seek re-election in 2022. And what's interesting in all of this is Lindsey Graham has now insinuated that President Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, might run for Richard Burr's seat in North Carolina, which will be interesting because it'll give us our first real taste of the Trump family running for political office in a post-Trump world. Does the family still have the bounce that Trump has, or is he sort of the only person that really has that bounce and nobody else in his family does? But Carlo, this is going to be interesting because Mitch McConnell essentially had this incredible speech where he essentially lambasted Trump, but essentially said, oh, well, we don't want to be the final jury that sort of convicts Trump. It should be up to the judicial courts out there, maybe in Georgia or here in North Carolina or in New York, to go after him on a criminal case otherwise. But Mitch McConnell is going to have a really hard time moving forward.
Mitch McConnell, man,
getting people, either establishment Republicans to run for Senate seats to give him back his majority, or is he going to have to deal with the MAGA crowd? He's got his hands full here.
I thought what he said after it was right. What you said is true. I mean, what he lambasted Trump. He said exactly the right thing, but he still voted on this like super thin argument that it's unconstitutional, even though they had already voted that it wasn't unconstitutional. So he's just, he talks out of both sides of his mouth. His speech could have been written
by Chuck Schumer. That's how damning that speech was. And I was really, the optics of it were really crazy. But what the GOP becomes now, Carlo, now that Donald Trump essentially
is open question.
Now that Donald Trump is not the de facto news cycle anymore, now the onus is on Joe Biden. Essentially, we're going to be focusing all 100% on him. He can't really rely on Trump being in the backstop anymore. What does the GOP become now? Is it going to become an Adam Kinzinger party who wants to completely transform the party into sort of this center-right party? Or does it become more of the Donald Trump wing of it? That's going to be a huge question now.
Well, given that Kinzinger's own family came out and said that they disowned him, and he's being censored. So I think I have a sense of where it's going.
All right, let's continue on this conversation. The controversial social media app Parler, Carlo, back online after it was cut off by Amazon, Google, and Apple in wake of the riots on Capitol Hill. Parler's new CEO says old accounts are now being restored and new users will be able to join in the coming days. Now, before the riots on January the 6th, the app had become a clearinghouse for far-right voices due to its lax moderation policies. But Carlo, it had jumped to probably one of the top apps on the app stores when it was available during that time that President Trump got banned from Twitter. There was even a time, and part of the fight that they lost John Matz, their last CEO, was because there was rumors that Donald Trump was going to take a 40% stake in Parler. This is how badly they wanted him to be on that platform. He ended up not joining the platform, but now you got to think Parler, it's going to be difficult for them when you can't download it for your phone on Google or on Apple, and it doesn't even have its hosting service from Amazon anymore. This is and Trump's not even on it. It's going to be a tough app now.
Well, it's all about Clubhouse now, isn't that the new?
It is.
That's the hot social media app. Yeah, I don't really get it myself, but I'm a slow adopter with this stuff. It is fascinating though. Before we move on, just how Trump himself has completely vanished from sort of just like the national conversation since he was booted from Twitter, isn't it? Like, I don't think anybody thought that it was going to be as easy to sort of like shut him up as it was. It's amazing. You don't really hear from him.
No, we don't hear from him at all. I mean, I tend to believe that Marjorie Taylor Greene has now become the outlet for him, because if you read her tweets and how she goes after members of Congress now, she talks a lot like Donald Trump, so I feel like she's the new megaphone for him. But you're right, Carlo. I mean, we have been accustomed since day one that Trump had this had a platform to intimidate, to talk about other people, to have this outlet to talk about things that he wanted to do. He doesn't have that anymore. There's rumors out there he's planning potentially to create his own social media platform, but we know that that's really difficult to do. And also, Parler is sort of this perfect case study that if you're not going to moderate whatever the content that's on the platform, whether it's violence or hate speech or whatever, you're not going to get on these, you're not going to get on the app stores anywhere, which you need to do anyway, because then you're not going to have anybody that's downloading the app. So they're in a tricky predicament here. I don't know how it's going to work.
I don't think that I don't think that Trump is going to start any sort of business, because that requires a lot of hard work. And I don't think that that's really what he wants to be doing, assuming he's even capable of doing that. I think he wants to play golf at Mar-a-Lago and sort of become a GOP kingmaker, which is more likely than not.
Well, that's probably likely what's going to happen, Carlo. Let's switch gears and let's talk about another topic that's really near and dear to me. A day after Prince Harry and Meghan Markle announced that they're expecting their second child, CBS saying, Carlo, that Oprah is going to interview the royal couple for a primetime special next month. The 90-minute sit-down, which the network is promoting as wide-ranging and intimate, will air Sunday, March the 7th. Now, Oprah says no topic, Carlo, is off limits, so presumably they're going to talk about their Megxit, Meghan's miscarriage, maybe her note to her father, all of this stuff. What I found to be most interesting, and Oprah has like deals with everybody. I mean, she's got the Oprah Winfrey Network. She's got a deal with Apple TV Plus now that's like doing a bunch of her things. She used to be a 60 Minutes correspondent, if you forgot about that a while ago. I find it interesting that this is not on one of the streaming platforms that she has a deal with. It's going actually to CBS.
That is a good point. I wonder, maybe CBS booked it and then well, I don't know. Anyway, that's not really, I don't doubt anybody cares except for media people about how that worked. But it's funny. I was actually looking at the British tabloids this morning just to see how they're reacting to this. And they are all over it. Pretty much saying how it's completely antithetical to the Harry and Meghan's whole thing about how they've moved to the U.S. because they want privacy.
Right.
Of course, it's not about wanting privacy. It's about wanting to be able to control their own narrative, right?
Correct.
And a big Oprah sit-down lets them do that in ways that, like, the Daily Mail and the paparazzi don't. So, I mean, that's what they're going to do. It makes sense. And mazel to them on their second child.
That's
my personal feelings about the royal couple notwithstanding.
Well, by the way, I mean, Archie was one of the best names you could ever give for a royal baby, which, by the way, they're not royals anymore. So I'm curious. I mean, I love, when the bookies are basically trying to figure out what the next baby name is going to be, and they're all taking crazy bets. Like, the Brits are crazy when it comes to bets on the most random things. You think, like, here in the United States, we're obsessed with, like, maybe betting on sports and stuff like that. In the UK, they're betting on potential baby names, like who's going to be the next prime minister, all of this stuff, which is really crazy, and I love it so much. Carlo, finally, 2 weeks after he had his recording contract suspended and his songs taken off air for using that racial slur, country star Morgan Wallen is actually selling more music than ever, if you can believe it. Wallen's latest album is now #1 in the country charts for 5 weeks running now, and his previous album has cracked the top 10 on Billboard's album chart for the first time. This after pretty much everybody left him. I think he was dropped from his record label. I think his agent dropped him. Everybody's dropped, and it's so interesting because Nashville, I don't know if you've ever been to Nashville. Nashville is one of my favorite places ever. It has a reputation for a party city, but from friends of mine that live there, they say there is a very storied racial past there, especially when it comes to how people treat people of color and how the N-word is used so frequently a lot in the South.
That's an interesting point I hadn't thought of. By the way, I think you said just that his latest album #1 on the country charts. It's actually #1 on the entire charts. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Good.
He is the #1. He's the #1 selling artist in the country now. I mean, look, what does that tell you, right? There's no such thing as bad publicity. right? It's truer than ever. Because this kid's obviously an idiot, but
But
look,
he's had so
I
many
mean,
chances to like fix. I mean, you remember during SNL, there was those photos
Yeah,
that
he got
he
booted.
was out partying during really the worst parts of the coronavirus. I mean, I think this was just when SNL was finally able to go back into the studio and perform in front of a live audience. He's apparently had issues with drinking in the past. So with this guy, it's like, how many times is he going to get another pass? And by the way, a small anecdote to all of this, I'm surprised that album charts are still selling in a time like this. When I can't believe in an era of streaming, people are still going out and buying albums.
It's weird. I think they the way that they do it, they include like streams. I don't know exactly how it's done, but it doesn't just include like people going to like Tower Records. Well, not even the Tower Records doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
Going to buy a CD,
The Virgin
which I don't even know if
Megastore,
you can do. Yeah, exactly. All right, Baker, let's leave it there for this Tuesday. We can talk more tomorrow. We haven't talked Taylor Swift yet. I think that's another.
I know.
Maybe we'll save that for tomorrow.
I got a lot to say about her. I love her.
Okay. All right, folks. That's what you need to know. Tuesday, February 16th. We'll see you mañana.